Well, what's going on, old Ubatubi? It's your boy and pastor True Exodus here. Looking at today the Beretta APX as part of our best out of the box striker fired pistol series between $350 and $550. I'm really excited to bring you this pistol today. Can I share with you my story with the pistol, share with you the shootability, the reliability, and of course the price. So stay tuned. Now, when we talk shootability, what are we talking about? We're talking about, does the gun help the shooter apply the fundamentals? So we got grip, sight picture, and trigger pull. So how well does the grip allow me to have faster follow-up shots? How well do the ergonomics fit with my hands? We've got sight picture or sight alignment. How well does the sights communicate to the shooter the point of aim and the point of impact? And number three, how well does the trigger help the shooter press it without the gun or without the shooter moving the gun before the gun goes off? So there's lots of different factors when it comes into looking for a handgun, especially a handgun to carry. Primarily for me, as you all have been a part of this now 12-part series, I'm a big proponent on reliability. Does the gun work all the time? Because a shooter can be trained to shoot really any gun, and good shooters should be able to pick up any gun and shoot them. Really what it comes down to is preference and, my opinion, reliability. So let's do a 25-yard 15 rounds slow fire on our bullseye and talk a little bit about point of aim, point of impact, and how well the trigger helps me get on at 25. So here we are at 25 yards on a Splatter Burst target like silhouette, so it's not the same bullseye that we've been using in this series, so I apologize for that those of you all who are OCD and need that consistency. However, I'm going to do a combat sight picture where the center dot after the horizons are aligned, equal height, equal light. We're going to allow the red center to be superimposed on the center white dot. I hope that made sense. All right, let's go see how bad we did. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, when I mess up with this gun, I mess up hard. and yeah, I have a consistent spot where I shoot this gun when I mess up, and it's directly to the left. I don't understand it, but when I mess up, this is where I go. 4 rounds, I felt 4 rounds pull. I felt 2 rounds drop. These right here, not really sure why we're not tagging the very center at 25 yards, but I'm just not that good of a shooter. As you can see, little anticipation pulls the gun left and consistently left for me. And again, that's just me as a shooter. That's not reflecting the handgun, but there is something to be said about how the handgun works with the shooter. Okay, so here we are at 50, shooting to the right of the truck on a full, like A-zone, C-zone size steel. At 50, we're gonna see how well the gun helps me as a shooter connect at 50 with the combination of the sights and the trigger. So not too bad. Some consistent, repeatable shots. The trigger allows me to really think about isolating my finger. The sights are big and flat, so they're not as surgical, but it's definitely that combat sight picture of after you've aligned your sights, where the dot is where the bullet's gonna go. All right, family and friends, let us look at the Beretta APX. A lot of people call it ugly. I call them ugly. Never judge a book by its cover. This gun looks a lot like a Glock, obviously. It's got some weird slide serrations, but they work. Kind of funky, but they work. They're not traditional, but they work. The whole ergonomics slide, adjustable back straps, very cool. Sits really deep in the hand, almost reminds me of like an M&P. Sits really deep in the hand. Doesn't have an extremely low bore axis. I'd say something that reminds me of obviously right between H and K and a Glock, really. The VP9 and the Glock is kind of what I think it is. It's not so low to where you can go crazy fast on it, but it's got a really good recoil impulse. The entire gun does, for sure. The gun does have ambidextrous slide release, so lefties or righties can use the gun, which is pretty cool. The gun breaks down really simply. Doesn't take that much to figure out. I know a lot of people were like losing their minds because they thought it was just like the worst thing to have to take down. It wasn't the worst thing to take down. It was the worst thing to put a new extractor in, and I'll tell you that story when we get to the reliability of the firearm. Trigger's really nice. It's about a 5.5 pound trigger pull. Short pre-travel to a wall. Little hiccup. Break. A little over travel, a little too much over travel for me. The reset, it's really nice. It's a positive reset. Come back to that wall slightly. A little bit of pre-travel probably, yep. Or a little bit of pressing past that wall, and then it breaks. So it's a really nice trigger, I dig it. I don't dig the way that the trigger safety feels in my hand. Like it definitely, or on my fingertip, it definitely doesn't go flush with the trigger. It sticks out about that much, and you can feel it if you shoot with your fingertip. You can't really feel it so much if you shoot with your finger pad, and you can definitely feel it if you shoot with the crook of your finger. So it's there. It's slightly annoying, but it's something you can't get over. The thing I like about this gun, mags come in and out stupid easy. I love reloading this gun. I think it's super, super fun because the mags just go in and out really easily. They did a really good job with the type of, like, I guess, mag well that they wanted to create along with their lanyard loop. It just works really, really well with each other. Way better than a Glock, way better than an M&P. The gun is able to get another magazine up there fast. And the magazines are really nice too. 17 round magazines, steel constructed. I mean, these feel really meatily, and I've not had any problems with them so far, so I'm really happy with that. They're kind of funky. I don't really know how to describe them. It's got a really big fat front dot, and when you line the dots all up, it looks like the center dot basically sits when you line the front sight post and the back sight post, basically what it looks like is it looks like this front dot is coming up slightly above those other dots, and I don't like that. I like everything to be uniformed and perfect. That's just kind of like not what you get with these. I think that sights could be a lot better. I think that flopping out the front sight for a more precision sight or a fiber optic may help the accuracy of what the shooter can see and then what the shooter can put on paper. So here we are at 25 yards again on the A-zone, C-zone size steel, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the recoil impulse of the gun. So I definitely feel like the gun has a little bit more snap to it than it does a thump. It kind of reminds me of like a SIG 229, a SIG 320, something along those lines. There's definitely a lot of more of this than there is this. So like with the Hudson H9, there's a lot more this and zero this. With this gun, there's about 80% this and 20% this right here. But it doesn't not help me get back on target. It just feels like it takes a little bit longer than most guns does. Still, it's just a really smooth operating machine. It really does feel like a sewing machine when you start really getting behind this gun and learning how to shoot it. And I did say learning how to shoot the gun. I've had 1,700 rounds through this gun so far, and there's a little bit of a learning curve because it's not like other guns. But again, there are a lot of you all out there who are just much more adaptable to different types of firearms than I am, and because I've got my bias. But this gun is, once you learn how to shoot it, it's just a smooth shooting sewing machine for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the reliability and get some reliability testing. All right, so story time with True Exodus. Beretta sent me this gun for nothing. So I do want to thank Beretta a lot for this. They've sent me a couple of other guns that we'll look at and review, but I was really happy with getting this gun because I didn't want to buy it, but I was really interested in what other people were saying about it. So Beretta reaching out and being able to send it to me was a huge blessing, and I do want to thank those guys. So 1,500 rounds into the gun, I brought the gun out actually into the yard to do a 1,500 round review. I didn't want to spend another 500 rounds on it, so I just wanted to do 1,500 rounds. And we had an interesting thing happen. While I was shooting it, there was reman ammo that I was shooting, and it had a very weird case bulge to where the actual rim was like pressed down into the actual shell casing. It was really weird, so much so that the sides of the shell casing were bulging out, and when the extractor on the gun went to reach and grab that rim, it grabbed the side of the bulge instead, and as it was yanking it out, the extractor broke. So, and went into, I don't even know where it went. It went off into like God's green earth. I don't exactly know if I want to chalk that up to an ammo problem or a gun problem, because it was clear that when you look at the bullet, you can see, right? Sorry about this wind, but you can see the extractor mark on the side, and it's like literally a quarter of an inch wider than what it would be. So again, I'm not like really well versed with guns, but I feel as though it was an ammo problem, not a gun problem. So I contacted Beretta. They were like, "Oh no," in Italian, and then they sent me the extractor assembly, and I was able to put it back together. It was kind of frustrating because I thought I could handle it. I spent about 15 minutes on Instagram Live trying to figure it out, and good thing I've got such great followers because they were able to help me out doing it. And I got it back in. I haven't had a problem with the gun since. So been really happy with the gun and its reliability. Zero issues besides that broken extractor. No stovepipes, no failure to feeds, no failure to eject, nothing like that, like not failure to go into battery. We've had no issues like that in 1,700 rounds, so I'm really proud that the gun has lasted this long, and the gun holds up really well. I've done a little bit of cleaning to it, but I've not cleaned the internals for 1,700 rounds, and we've been really impressed with the pistol. So let's put it through our sand test, our Indiana dirt test, and of course our water test. All right guys, you know the drill. We're gonna take some Indiana dirt test, spread it on there. It's already got 5 rounds in the magazine, but it's not been loaded. The chamber has not been loaded, right? I like to do that because I actually like to see what happens when you have to pick up your gun and rack it in the adverse shooting conditions, because more than likely, if you ever have to do that, the gun's gonna, the gun's gonna fall down on the ground. You're gonna have to make the gun work. Oh gosh, okay, my tripod just decided to poop out on me. Please hold. All right. Let's see how well this does. We're having the issue of the FN. The trigger doesn't want to reset. Again, trigger's not wanting to reset. Again, just not wanting to reset. But it did lock back on that last round. All right, here we go, Indiana sand test. Satisfied. It's a little windy out here, but it is what it is. See if it racks. No, it's not. Just got nothing. Spring. Trigger doesn't want to come back. It's unfortunate. Same trigger issue. That one failed to go back in the battery. So all those times, locked back, all those times I had to reset the trigger, so it's not good. All right, let's do that baptism test. 5 rounds in there. let all the bubbles come out. Baptism reference. You know, you want to follow after Jesus, you got to participate in his death, burial, and resurrection. You know, you got to take up your cross, you got to deny yourself, you got to die into the waters of baptism, be resurrected anew, right? In fact, I believe that Ezekiel 36 talks about this is the place where I'm going to give you a new heart, Ezekiel says. Heart of the spirit, heart of the flesh, take out that heart of stone. Well, here we go. I know a lot of y'all don't care for that religious mumbo jumbo, but guess what? I don't care. Let's see what we do. It's, man, trigger, bro. Trigger, bro. Trigger. Trigger. And it didn't lock back in the last round. Wow, that could be more of a failure. Okay, that didn't go as planned. I really wanted this gun to work. People were calling it ugly. They were saying how the sights were horrible. Things like that. I really wanted the gun to work because I wanted to be like, ha, a new Glock. But in fact, it didn't happen. So how can we recap this and what can we say? So just like traditionally speaking, let's rate everything, the shootability of the gun, the reliability, give that a rating, do an average together. So when it comes to the grip, I'm gonna have to give the grip 7 out of 10. I think that they did a really good job on the grip. I think that the gun allows you to get higher up on the gun, allows you to control the gun. It's got really nice texturing, adjustable back straps, place to put my thumb for that, me camming out my wrists. So really dig that. I think that's really good. So yeah, we're gonna give that a 7 out of 10. When it comes to the actual sights, not a real strong fan of the combat sight pictures, although as you see at 25 yards, we were able to actually shoot extremely well. Even at 50, we were able to connect, so I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10. Even though I really don't like the sights, it doesn't really matter about my preference, it matters about how they perform, and so with all that said, 7 out of 10. The trigger, the trigger though. I dig this trigger. I know I had the complaint about the safety, and there's the reliability issue of it not wanting to reset, but that goes under the reliability department. When it comes to the actual trigger itself, I dig it. I think it works really well. Man, this just does not want to reset at all. I think it works really well. I think it's a really intuitive pull. It obviously allows us to be very precise. I'm gonna give the trigger an 8 out of 10. I think it's that good. It's not the best trigger in the world. It's not like Canik TP9S Elite. It's definitely not like a Walther, but it's better than a Glock, and it's better than a Smith & Wesson M&P, if I do say so myself. Oh, but when it comes to reliability, ooh. So let's recap. 1,700 rounds, not a single problem. Had an extractor issue, but I'm gonna give the gun the benefit of the doubt and say that it wasn't the extractor, it was the ammo, and that would have probably done that with any gun. If you have any other thoughts on that, leave me a comment in the section below, and kind of talk and discuss that with me so I can have a better understanding, because again, just not fully 100% certain on that. But with that, and then it failed the sand test, the dirt test, and the water test, I'm gonna have to give the reliability of the firearm a 4 out of 10. Did not want to work under adverse shooting conditions. It's great, but when you're proposing it to the US military, it's got to be able to work in all those nasty conditions. If it falls on the ground and some soldier picks it up by his lanyard string and then has to make the gun work by racking it or whatever, and the trigger doesn't want to reset, that's a problem, right? If the gun doesn't want to go into battery, that's a problem. The gun didn't have a problem cycling, but the gun had a problem with the trigger not wanting to work, so there you have it. So when you put it all together, 6.75 out of 10 is what I'm going to give the Beretta APX. Although one of the plus sides to the Beretta APX is that it is competitively priced. You can find them for $480, $500, somewhere around there. I know I've found some ridiculous prices for like $550, $600, but primarily in around gun stores, $480 to $500. So it's a competitive price. Comes with 2 magazines. Their holster isn't worth a hoot. Beretta sent me their 4 o'clock kind of like leather hybrid wannabe. This is probably one of the worst holsters I've ever had in my waistband. I think I'd take an Uncle Mike's over this. It just doesn't want to. It has a really big problem reholstering. It's really good on concealment. It's comfortable, but it's not really, it doesn't have very much retention. There's a lot of issues with this holster. And yeah, I love you, Beretta, but you need to stick to making guns and shotguns. Get rid of that. So. That review did not go how I wanted it to go. I wanted the Beretta APX to be successful. I didn't want to have anything bad to say about the gun. However, that's just the reality sometimes, you know? Man, you know, I love having good relationships with companies, good companies. And it sucks to have to break to them bad news that their guns don't work, right? I mean, let's put this into perspective. Wilson Combat EDC X9 was more reliable than this polymer-based Beretta APX. That's stupid. It shouldn't happen like that. What world do we live in? Anyway, neither here nor there. I hope you guys enjoyed the review of the Beretta APX. If you don't have to get the gun dirty, if you don't have to get the gun wet, if you don't have to get the gun sandy, I think it works great. But yeah, so True Exodus here, saying hold fast, stay the course. Until next time, out.